Today, we're going to review the Teshuvah of Rabbi Messas, where he could say, he asks the question, what is more reliable? Eliyahu, the prophet, who's an angel, or a pregnancy test? In other words, the question is, how do you follow when modern medicine, modern science has a conflict with traditional halacha, right? Which one do you follow? So he has this question. It's a real case that happened in 1960. He's writing to someone from Tlemcen in Algeria, and he says the question was a woman whose husband escaped the country, and she was left what we call aguna, anchored. She cannot marry because she's married to him, and she's not divorced. And it took 7 years for her to spend a lot of money and make a lot of effort to finally receive her divorce and be officially divorced. Now she's allowed to marry. And obviously during that period that he was away, she was dating, she knew people. But the way he writes it says, within a week she found someone and she's about to get married. Meaning probably they had already established a relationship before. And they go out together and they want to get married. Seems like no brainer, should get married. But the local rabbi, the local rabbi says you can't get married until 3 months pass from the day you receive the divorce. And another rabbi there, Rabbi Avraham Belayah, who was his father, Rabbi Haim Ovadia, was the rabbi in Algeria, it's a great Amit Hacham, said you should call Rabbi Messas because he allows to do it previously. Now, what is the background of that? Why would they have to wait 3 months? So the Mishnah Nivamot says that any woman who got divorced or widowed and now wants to remarry has to wait 3 months to make sure that she's not pregnant. Because if she's pregnant and now she's going to get married, she'll give birth, and we wouldn't know whether it's the son of the first husband or the second husband, which could create a lot of problems in terms of getting married in the future to a relative. Is he related or not from the first or the second husband, and so on. What if the first husband is a Kohen and the second is not a Kohen? So is this child going to be a Kohen or not? Many issues like that. Or if she's pregnant, back then they thought that a woman could become pregnant twice, one pregnancy over the other, which we know is not true, but that's what they thought. So they thought that if the woman is pregnant and she gets married now, and she will have relationships, the fetus is going to be damaged. But this is the secondary concern. The main concern was that they need to know the identity of the father. So now the couple comes to the rabbi and they say you have to wait 3 months. It says Abahur lo ratza lamtin klal. So we're not interested in waiting. Not the man, the woman. They say we want to get married now, and if you don't do us, you the rabbis, if you don't do it, we're going to go to the civil court and do a civil marriage. And it says, and the parents are crying. It says they want a Jewish wedding. Please do something. It says, "Ne'elatzti lishnot perek zeh." It says I had to now delve into this question and see what do we do. אחר שהמציאו לפניי תעודת רופא מובהק שאין לאישה שוברי הריון כלל. It says we had a testimony from a doctor who examined her and she's not pregnant, and also her friends, women who know that she's not pregnant, and this is how he analyzes the question. So go back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah says that the woman has to wait. The Talmud further interprets that. And in the Talmud there are two opinions. One rabbi says, since the rabbi has made a decree that a woman has to wait 3 months, we make no distinction. It doesn't matter what case of divorce or becoming a widow. In any case, she has to wait. Even if she's too young to have children or too old to have children. Even if she was barren before, never had children. Even if the husband was away. In all these cases, she has to wait. That's one opinion. The other opinion says no. Doesn't make sense. Only if she had the possibility to be pregnant, that's when you have to wait. Why would you put people through suffering? But be it as it may, eventually, in the Shulchan Aruch, all the evolutions that the halakha went through, when it came to 1,000 years later, more than 1,000 years later, to the desk of Rabbi Yosef Karo, or the Shulchan Aruch, he said she has to wait 3 months. In speaking about a divorcee, 3 months from the day the get was written. And the Ashkenazi halakha, the Ramah goes even further. It says not from the day it was written, from the day it was given. So in this case, this husband was away for 7 years. There's no way that she could carry his child. And everybody knows, they didn't know where he was trying to avoid her, he never came back to town. 7 years. And now the get was written and delivered maybe a month later, and they say now we have to wait another 3 months. So Rabbi Meshash writes the following. He says, למדנו בזמניהם ז"ל היו כל השידוכים נעשים ברשות בית דין, ולאחר באו להסבירם שלא ייתנו להם רשות עד שישבע המשודח. Says there's one very important change in reality in the way society functions at the time, which is that back at the day, all marriages and all, not just marriages, even the connections between people were done through the bedin. There was a system where the parents would introduce the bride and groom, and the court would approve. So they would obey this procedure. So if you would tell them, so they really would go through a period of dating, which was done in a sort of modest way. They would meet each other for a short while, talk, go back, and that's it. They don't hang out together in a too intimate way. And then when the time comes, they get married. But he says, בזמן הזה, and he writes in the 1960s, בזמן הזה כל השידוכים נעשים שלא ברשות בית דין ובלתי ידיעתם כלל, וגם בלי ידיעת ההורים של שניהם. So the children don't ask the parents, am I allowed to date that person or not? They do it on their own. They're free people. והם מסתתרים בכל מקום סתר ועושים מחשך מעשיהם, ואחר כמה חודשים אז מודיעים את ההורים ועושים חגת שידוכים. After they date, they live together, then they come and tell the parents where we think we're going to get married. So he's very aware of the situation. It's very his time. We're 1960. He writes that. He says, this is how it was. ומתייחד עמה כאיש עם אשתו, and they live together like a couple. והמונע עצמו מזה נקרא עבריין. He says, if a young man would not behave like that, his friends will call him a criminal. Meaning, he speaks about peer pressure. The peer pressure is so strong to behave like that you can't not do that. And he says, and we know very well that you can talk as much as you want. It's not going to change the situation. And he says, ואם כן, למה זה הבל איגע לעכב עליהם חופה וקידושים כדת משה וישראל? He says, so why are we trying to do how would you call it? He calls it hevel iga. It's like complete vanity. There's no benefit from delaying their wedding because they already live together, and we know by medical evidence that she's not pregnant. So what is the point to delay it? And then regarding the fact that they were afraid that if she's pregnant, she'll get pregnant again. It says this is nonsense. We know it doesn't happen. They didn't know the facts at the time. And he says this
because they're afraid she's going to cheat, even though her husband is not around.
Yeah, but still, they
not there. She could have begun, maybe 3 months before she.
Maybe right. Maybe it was that, but nobody says that. They just said, we have to. Yeah, no, he's making a good point that maybe the rabbis made this decree to prevent the woman from having an affair with another man. It could be, but no one mentions that. But he says this is the important thing of what Rabbi Meshash says is his way of understanding the reality and the people. He says, yeah, you could look at the book, and the book says you have to follow the letter of the law. It says, yeah, you could do that. By doing that, you kept the law, but you lost the people. And he brings an example. He says, ועוד עמד לנגדי מה שאירע לי בשנת תר"פ בהיותי בעיר אל-ערייס שבה מעשה כזה לידי. When he was a younger rabbi, this is about 40 years earlier, in 1920, he says he lived in a city Al-Arayis, I think it's also in Algeria, and there was exactly the same case. But back then, as a young rabbi, it was a little more strict. ועיכבתי עליהם, and I delayed them from getting married. ונשבר הזוג, והאישה יצאה לתרבות רעה, רחמנא ליצלן. So they broke apart. The man wouldn't wait, and the woman ended up, like he says in different ways, and married a Muslim. וסברנו מרורות, והלכה אישה עם ערבי אחד. So this is what have we gained? We caused strife to the couple. We ended up, and not only that, he says. הם בידם טובם ילכו במועצותיהם להתחתן בית דין עדי מלכותם. The people who are become frustrated with the rabbinate go to civil courts and criticize the rabbinic establishment. ואותנו ישליכו אחרי גבם וישפכו עלינו ועל הוראותינו בוז וקלון, and they shame and insult the whole rabbinic establishment. So he says אין לך בו אלא חידושו. He says since we have a minority opinion in the Gemara that says that only a woman who has the potential to get married should wait, and in this case her husband was separated from her for 7 years, this doesn't exist. Second, yes, we have a new element, something that did not exist in the time of the Gemara, which is the medical. At his time, it has to be done by a doctor. Today, there's a pregnancy test that everyone can take at home very easily, so there's no question that you could rely on that. So he says, now what if you will tell me that the Gemara says, what if Eliyahu Hanavi comes and testifies? He says, I know that, like, heaven knows that this woman is not pregnant. So you go back to heaven where this is the Rabbinical court. We don't talk to angels. He says, that's very nice. We don't talk to angels because halakha has to determine in the human court. But the human court also must rely on scientific evidence. So at the end of the day, he says, the opinion of a doctor is more valid and reliable than a testimony delivered by Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu the prophet. Very, very powerful statement. So this is his ruling about this case of delaying marriage. There is an implication, besides the individual cases, to especially to what is happening in Israel. One of the big issues in Israel is civil marriage, that the rabbinate controls everything, and a lot of non-observant people are asking, pushing to have civil marriage. We don't want to go through the rabbanut. We don't want to go to the rabbi. We want to go to court and just register like you do here. And the rabbinate is standing, strong against it, that it will never happen. But what they don't understand is that if they read the community, just like Rabbi Messas read his community, and say, instead of fighting with them, says, this is what you want to do? You don't want to do it through the rabbinate? Go ahead. Go to civil court. If you want to do it with the rabbi, you'll do it with the rabbi. If you don't, you don't. And if once people are given the choice, if they would have been given the choice in Israel, most probably 90% would stick with having the wedding done through a rabbi of any denomination, because they feel more comfortable with that. But as long as they're being forced, they turn against the establishment and they cause more animosity and resentment. So, bottom line, the message that he gives us, that the leadership, and definitely the religious leadership, always have to be concerned and aware of where the community stands, where the people stand, and how to help and accommodate them.